Hey, it's Mark with High Energy Labs. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching our show today. If you have any live comments, since we are going live, you're welcome to make any comments. Today I have, again, my good friend Samuel Fox.
How's it going?
And he is going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic today, which is spirituality and how that can tie in and how that can affect your health. And we have a great media moment by J.P. Spears. If you don't know who J.P. Spears is, very funny, very sarcastic. He's going to be talking about woke. Are you guys even woke out there? And we all know, right, Sam, everyone is created equal. But if you are woke, you're just a little bit more equal than everyone else. So that's our funny media moment coming up. You'll want to stay tuned for that. We have an amazing TED Talk. What was that lady's name?
Lisa Rankin.
Lisa Rankin, and she is going to give us a little prequel about mental health and the importance of that. She was a PhD for many years, had lots of patients, was an OBGYN. You want to stay tuned for our show. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's just dive right into it. So we didn't give a proper introduction for Sam last time. Well, we did last time, but not for this show. So those of you guys that are tuning in live and watching now on the feed, Sam has an amazing background in nutrition. He's very versed in supplementation and different ingredients, overall health. And then he also has a really good platform that he loves to talk about in regards to spirituality and being in tune. And that's kind of what we're going to go over today. Last time on the show we talked a little bit about stress. We brought up and that's a small part of mental health, like stress and anxiety. And we know that is a big growing problem right now within youth, with kind of just impacts everyone. You know, as far as
stress levels right now.
Yeah, as far as anxiety goes, and so we're going to kind of get into that and kind of the source of that and where that comes from, and how that can be, or if that is even a factor in affecting our overall health. Because we hear mainstream media, we hear everyone else talking about, Sam, the importance of nutrition. We hear them talking about, oh, you got to supplement, you got to work out, you got to hit the gym, you got to go, run or whatever, do your cardio, get all that stuff in, yoga, whatever that is, as long as you're staying active, that's fine. However, what we want to dive in and discuss today is something that's even more important, is mental health and how that ties into that. Now, we're not saying that that's not important, because we think all these things...
More foundational.
Yeah, exactly. So you could be having issues. Say all your life you've struggled with depression, or you've suffered with anxiety, or you've had other health issues. And whether that's cancer or tumors or other things like that, these could all be related to mental health, because you're not in the right place and you're not thinking where you're at. So as a kind of a parody on this, it's time for the media moment. Let's do the media moment. And if you have that clip ready up there, let's run the media moment by J.P. Spears, because this thing just cracks me up.
Are you even woke? This has been the question that's perplexed humanity for hundreds of hours since prehistoric times. And I'll also bet your life is pretty crappy not having the answer to this question. Are you even woke? Come with me on a little journey to understand what it looks like to be woke. If you were woke, then you would be open-minded enough to see that you're never wrong. Ask every person you see if they think we're living in a simulation. See insensitivity in everything everybody else does. Know that focusing on the problem and not the solution is the solution to any problem. Use taking the red pill or the blue pill matrix analogies at least once in every conversation. Talk about blockchain technology over avocado toast and a $6 coffee that you didn't use the blockchain to pay for. Know exactly how to criticize every public policy in a precise way that won't make any difference. If you're woke, then you would be advanced enough to see how progressives aren't progressive enough, how the left is too far to the left, how the right is too far to the right, and how people in the middle are too indifferent. Never eat bread that's not artisan whole wheat made from heirloom Italian wheat seeds with the flair of impossibly gluten-free attitude. Never eat meat that's not hormone-free, antibiotic-free, free-range, grass-fed, and cuddled at night. Never eat meat that's made out of meat. If you were woke, then you would know that the government is trying to deceive you no matter what they're telling you. See the Illuminati's involvement in everything. Know that an emotionally charged rant on Twitter is the key to being the change that you wish to see in the world. Judge judgmental people to be unevolved. Judge yourself to be non-judgmental. Know that bottled water is healthier for you than tap water. Know that tap water is healthier for the planet than bottled water. And know that being healthy is what's healthiest for the planet. Wow, that was riveting and informative. But the real question is, are you even woke? Finally, I've developed an individualized quiz that will tell you if you are woke. It's basically an advanced genetic test that doesn't involve genetics or advancement, but it's 100% accurate most of the time. Are you even woke? Click the link in the description to take the quiz and find out. You know that all people are created equal. But if you're woke, you're just a little more equal than everybody else. Take the quiz now to find out if you're woke.
Welcome back. Are you guys even woke?
Are you woke?
That test is 100% accurate, by the way. I took it myself most of the time. It's 100% accurate.
And if you want to be some of the percent of the time, you can do that and call it wrong.
Exactly. So let's kind of go in as a prequel. Oh, we just wanted to talk about this is not like traditional mental health that we're discussing.
Yeah, so we're not talking about, the traditional sense. It's the mind's health is determined by its alignment to your spirit. And, how much we allow inspiration to flow through the mind and actuate our words and actions rather than choosing from what we think we want.
I also want to address, though, like past issues that we'll get into that could have an impact on that. So I guess the goal is for us to kind of determine and find out who we really are and where we're supposed to be, what's our path in life and what we should be doing. And when those paths are not congruent, there's like this cognitive dissonance that exists. And that's really what we're discussing today is kind of cognitive dissonance. So when we're not in alignment, and that could be due to past issues, that could be due to abuse, that could be being in an abusive relationship, things that have happened to us, feelings of abandonment, maybe like, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have had this happen to them. I've had this personally happen to me before, is maybe your parents took you to the store to go shopping, and they forgot you were there, and they left you at the store, and then they're like, oh crap, I left my kid at the store, which maybe in my case, it was intentional. But anyways, I have a neighbor, these guys have, it's so funny, they have, let me think how many kids they have. They have 7 kids. No, actually 8 now. They have 8 kids. And one of they've done this multiple times. We were like at a church activity. Yeah. And they got all the way home and they realized they left one of their kids there. And so I called them up. I was like, hey, did you know that you left so-and-so here? And they're like, oh, no. I'm like, that's what you get for having so many kids. But anyways, they have done that multiple times. Like, been like traveling on vacation, and they'll go into a gas station and they think they got everyone and they drive off, and then they're like, oh crap, we left one of our kids at the gas station. So, but anyways, that's just a random side note. But what I do is I want to play this clip. This is a TED Talk by Dr. Lisa, what's her last name?
Lisa Rankin.
Lisa Rankin. And I thought it was very informative. We're not going to play the whole talk, but we will create a link for it so you guys can go back and watch it.
Fabulous talk. You really like. She's really like world renowned on what some call like the fringe sciences of bringing spirituality. So she's an OBGYN doctor, and then kind of woke out of that. And not to judge doctors or anything, but she just she did what we're going to talk about, is she awakened to her path and chose into it, and she's walking her path, and she has amazing insights to share.
Yeah, so
that she's found.
we're going to play like the first part of that about 2-3 minutes into it, and that'll kind of give us a little platform to discuss, and then we'll summarize and kind of talk about what our thoughts are, what Sam's expertise and background, and get into like what's important and what really has an impact on your overall physical health and well-being. So let's roll that clip.
What's the most important part of your health? What do you think? Is it eating a balanced, mostly plant-based diet? Balancing your hormones? Daily exercise? Getting enough sleep? What do you guys think? Taking your vitamins? Seeing your doctor for regular checkups? Yes. These things might all seem like important, even critical factors to living a healthy life, right? But what if I told you that caring for your body was the least important part of your health? What do you think? I'm a physician, so if you had told me that 5 years ago, that would have been total sacrilege, right? I spent 12 years training, because the body is supposed to be the foundation for everything in life, right? But what if I told you that the medical profession had it all backwards? If the body doesn't shape how we live our lives, what if the body is actually a mirror of how we live our lives? Think about it for a minute. Think about a time in your life where you weren't living the life you were supposed to be living. Maybe you were in the wrong relationship, or you were in some hostile work environment doing what you thought you should do, or you were creatively thwarted, you felt spiritually disconnected. And what if you started getting little inklings from the body, little physical symptoms? The body's trying to tell you something, and you ignore it because you're supposed to do what you're doing. And then the body totally decompensates. Can you think about a time in your life where something like that has happened? Yeah, I see a lot of noddings. Yeah, me too. Same thing happened to me. So this is what the body does. The body is brilliant this way. The body speaks to us in whispers. And if we ignore the whispers of the body starts to yell. Millions of people in this country are ignoring the whispers of the body. We're suffering from an epidemic that modern medicine has no idea what to do with. People suffering from this epidemic are fatigued. They're anxious and depressed. They toss and turn at night. They've lost their libido. They suffer from a whole variety of aches and pains. So they go to the doctor, right? Because something's wrong. And the doctor runs a whole battery of tests. And the tests all come back normal. So the patient gets diagnosed as well. Only the patient doesn't feel well. So she goes to another doctor, and she starts the whole process over again because something is clearly wrong, right? And it is wrong. It's not what she thinks. I used to work in a really busy managed care practice. I was seeing 40 patients a day. And I would get so freaking frustrated with these patients. They'd come in, and it was so obvious they were really suffering. And I'd run the tests. Everything would come back normal. I'd diagnose them well, and they'd look at me like, no, I'm not well. Something's wrong. And I felt so frustrated because I couldn't come up with a diagnosis. And they just wanted, please, doc, give me a pill. And there was no pill. There's no pill to treat it. There's no lab test to diagnose this epidemic. There's no vaccine to prevent it, no surgery to cut it out. It wasn't until years later that I realized I was suffering from the same epidemic my patients were. By the time I was 33 years old, I was your typical physician. You know, I had succeeded in everything I ever wanted to achieve in my life, I thought. You know, I had all the trappings of success, the oceanfront house in San Diego, the vacation home, the boat, the big fat retirement account so I could be happy one day in the future. I was twice divorced by that point. I had been diagnosed with high blood pressure. I was taking 3 medications.
She goes on to talk about how she had all these issues and these different problems, and what she realized is that they were stemming from these mental health problems and other things that were causing her condition, and she wasn't living the life that she should be living. So, you know, after that she goes on to kind of be a naturopathic doctor. And she finds out, yeah, that kind of helped a little bit, but instead of just, you know, prescribing people pharmaceutical drugs, now I'm giving them herbal supplements and other remedies. And yeah, I believe in this, and I think this is right, but that's really not the problem. So, you know, she kind of disconnected and stopped becoming a doctor, and then she ended up becoming more creative. And then she talks about, you know, how she enjoys speaking to people and talking to people. And that was really how she felt she could help these people. And that was kind of her goal and calling in life, was to tap into her artistic side. And then she says the main thing that was most important for her in her life was to be in a healthy relationship. And she mentions that she was divorced 2 times, and she was never in this healthy relationship, and she always wanted more, and she was never satisfied or never happy. And another thing that I thought was very interesting in this talk, which you guys can go watch it later, is that she has another patient that comes to her, and this patient is kind of like the epitome of health. She's doing everything that she should. She's like eating, you know, whole grains. She's like eating fruits, vegetables, putting like organic foods into her body. She's taking all sorts of supplements. And then she's doing yoga, she's doing cardio, she's doing all sorts of exercising. But she has these cancers and inflammation, and she can't sleep at night, and she has all these different physical problems. And she comes to the doctor and is like, why is all this happening to me? And the reason, I guess, behind this individual is that, number one, she was sexually abused by her father at a very young age, went on for years. And then secondly, she's in a very abusive, physically abusive, as well as mentally abusive, toxic relationship. And because these things are happening from an outside source, and they're affecting her mind, and she's not living up to her true potential and where she should be, that's why she's having all these health-related issues. So, you know, one thing in our lives that I think we need to step back and look at and go, look, our ultimate goal is to be healthy. And, you know, and as this doctor talks about in this talk, is the most important thing is your mind. So where you are at and what you should be doing, and tapping into that creativity and becoming your true self. And those are the most important things. And once you can do that, the mind is going to heal the body. And then secondly, you can do those things that are also important. Now, she's not saying that it's not important to watch our diets and watch what we put into our bodies. Obviously, if you have ultimate and perfect mental health, sure, you may be able to eat Twinkies every once in a while, right? Eat some Otter Pops. I love Otter Pops, by the way, in the summer. And that was a little plug for Otter Pops. They can give me some money on the backside if their marketing team or anyone's watching this video or cast. But anyways, I believe that to be, you know, and I've struggled with that. I think everyone on some level struggles with something from their past and trying to figure out what they should be doing, where we're at, how do we become ultimately happy? You know, how do we not compare our lives to other people? How do we not judge people? How do we, you know, live an ultimate full life? Yeah. So in your experience, Sam, what have you found that's been the key in your research to kind of tapping into that, and what are some things that we can do? You know, because one more thing, you know, she talks about number one important thing is being in a healthy relationship, you know, and then secondly, she talks about, you know, being creative and having that outlet and being able to do kind of what you're intended to do.
So let me kind of touch on some of what we don't do. So kind of some things she touched on, and you were talking about how we have these pains of the past that are unhealed, that are housed in our body and our cellular memory. And the traditional...
a lot of times, I wanted to point out, a lot of times we replay those too. And we need to realize, because we talked a little bit about stress and anxiety, and we replay these images, or we tell ourselves that we're not good enough, or we have this negative self-talk, so maybe we had this embarrassing moment as a child or growing up, or we were bullied, or our parents told us we were stupid, and we just kind of replay those over and over in our head, and that's not good for us, for our physical well-being, and it's not good for our mental well-being. But go ahead, I didn't mean to cut you off.
So they replay so that we can listen to them. If we didn't listen to them the first time, then they replay again, physically, not just in our mind. They'll replay in our minds, but then if we don't hear them there, then they play out again.
Because you talked about it manifesting in inflammation or other problems and issues as well.
So stress, inflammation, obesity, mental, the typical mental health, these are all signs. These are all, hey, wake up. There's something for you to listen to. And so many of us,
been addressed as well.
Right, so many of us, we don't even know what to do. So I'm a spiritual life coach, but I bring in wholeness mentoring. It's all about the wholeness, mind, body, spirit, bringing them all in congruency with each other. And what I see is we have an ailment that shows up. And it's like, oh, I need to go eat better, and I need to exercise, and I need to go do my yoga, and I need to meditate. Those all sound fantastic, right? But do I listen to the pain? Can we sit alone and listen? That's what the pain needs to be resolved and to pass out of us and stop manifesting both in our mind and if it doesn't get listened to there in our physical lives as well. Can I listen to the pain?
I think that's a good point. But one thing I just want to clarify to people, in listening or replaying that doesn't mean like living in the past.
No.
Not at all.
It's
that doesn't
being
mean,
in the moment,
Yeah.
letting it come to you and share its pain. And you staying present. So a lot of people
not
can't
like
do this.
beating ourselves up for past mistakes, because a lot of us have a tendency, and I did that for many years, and we all do stupid things. I've done more than my share of stupid things in the past, and I beat myself up over it, like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? You're so stupid. But that's not what we're saying, guys. What we're saying is to, yes, look at those past things or occurrences or events that have been damaging to us and address those. And what I found, I don't know what your solution is, but what I found a lot of times is that if I can just say there's something in my past that I have not completely dealt with, or I haven't let go, and sometimes it still reoccurs, and it's like, oh, why did I do that? But what I found is to just go and be alone and let it kind of manifest. It wells up in you. You live it. You feel those emotions, and then you're like, okay, I did that. I'm stupid. So say it's something that you did when you were like 10 years old, or something that happened to you when you were 10 years old. So rather than playing the victim and looking at it, you can identify and look at it and go, look, that was wrong. It was wrong for me to feel that way, or it was wrong for me to react that way, or that was a stupid thing that I did. However, I wouldn't do that now based on the knowledge that I have. And so I'm now able to experience that, let it go, and forgive myself for what has happened to me, or what was done to me, or what I did, no matter what the situation was. Once you can address that, feel it, experience it again, and then let it go, and then tell yourself, look, I'm better now, and that was the past. I'm letting it go. I'm not going to do that again, and that's not me anymore. And once you can get to that level, then you can move on and let that that damaging event go that's possibly, in many cases, impacting your physical health as well as your mental health.
So I want to take that a step deeper. That's one step on the journey of going back and listening. And when I say listen, feeling, that's part of it. Just being present to it. Let it well up. Don't let it overtake you. Stay present. Stay in the observer's chair, so to speak.
Yeah.
But here's the final piece. So that's a core foundational step. If we can get there, like, you're going to see massive improvement. I want to share kind of the final step to kind of finalize this problem. You know, you were mentioning how, okay, I did something stupid, all this. To finalize the process and to fully let it pass out of us, we must remove all judgment that anything was wrong. Because that part that's crying out in pain, it experiences life separate from love, kicked out of heaven. Like, there's multiple ways to say this. And being present and listening to it, I'm acting as the love in the presence, or as the presence of God to this hurting child, right? My innocence within. And I stand kind of like, you know, I'm a Christian, so Jesus, right, the Savior, and kind of a Savior of sorts. And I listen to this pain, and I hear it call itself stupid. I hear it call itself wrong, and that it wished it would have never done that. And I can just listen. Now, this definitely isn't for the faint of heart. I definitely help a lot of people do this. But as we grow and as we anchor more in this space, we can do it for ourselves more and more. Of just being the presence and just listening to all that thinks it's wrong, all that thinks it's separate from God, all that thinks it's condemned and judged, because we issued the judgment. Right. And only we can revoke the judgment. And I'm speaking from experience. This is not theory. So it's like, oh, what about what? No. Try it. It'll work. And so as we revoke the judgment and we listen to the pain and we just let it just run its course. And then a simple phrase. I want to give you a simple step. This isn't the only step, but it'll help you get present to inspiration for your next step. As you're listening to this pain, I just want you to give one simple response to it. I love you. Because we say love is the answer to every problem, right? What is the most simplest expression of love? I love you. And so as we just express, I love you.
And we're saying that to ourselves.
We're saying that to the one that feels separate from love, the one that feels kicked out of heaven, the one that feels judged.
That judgment or that pain.
Yes. And because nothing is wrong for it. If I try and convince it that it's love and not kicked out of heaven, what am I saying? Where it's currently at is wrong. What you're thinking is wrong. It sounds good to try and convince it, but really what I'm reinforcing is it's wrong.
That's an interesting point of what you brought up, because I'm thinking, you know, you talked about complete love and saying that you love yourself. But, you know, and we're always told, and I believe that our purpose here on this earth is to learn to love and accept people unconditionally.
Yes.
And so the hardest thing for us to love ourselves unconditionally, it's unconditional love, because we're so hard on ourselves on things that have happened to us in the past, or experiences that we've gone through that are negative, you know, whether someone has done something to us. We still judge ourselves, and we still say that was our fault.
Right.
And we have this inner voice in the back of our head that's constantly saying, we're not good enough. You need to do more. Or, why did you do this? You're never going to make it. And so, you know, part of that, you know, it just kind of hit me. I had this kind of epiphany. I'm like, look, yeah, I can tell myself that I love myself, but am I really loving myself unconditional? And the answer to that is no, and I need to work on that. So, I mean, you touched a valid point there, because I really need to step back and go, okay, it's okay. It's okay that you know, at the time, yeah, no, it wasn't okay that you did these stupid things, but now there's nothing that you can do to change the past. But there is stuff that you can do right now in the moment that will impact the future, and that's like letting that go and moving on and realizing your true potential and what we're here on this earth for, to help and to serve other people. And, if we took, I don't know, there may be a lot of people who go, look, this is a whole nother religious aspect of it, but I don't think it matters whether you believe in Buddha or Hinduism or Christ, no matter what that is, or whether it's just like you want to identify it and call it spirituality. I think there's something, and I think that's very important that you tap into this spiritual aspect of yourself and that you're able to love and accept yourself and forgive yourself for past mistakes and move on. So I think that's the true key to physical health, to mental health, to overall well-being. Yes, we need to do these other things as well on top of that, but if we don't address this core thing, it's going to continue to haunt us, and these past mistakes or past things that have happened to us are going to continue to haunt us until we're able to move past it and go, look, I'm better, I forgive myself, I would never do that again, and move on with our lives. And we also need to do that to other people. We have a tendency to place expectations on our loved ones, like on our children, on everyone that we have relationships with. We place expectations on, and when they don't live up to those expectations, there's a part of us that is like, or they feel most, I think the main thing is the other people feel not loved and not accepted, and that we're actually judging them in a way, and because we're not loving them unconditionally. Now, that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be expectations put on our children and there shouldn't be consequences. However, we would never want to say, look, just because they did that, we love them any less, or we accept them any less. And I had this talk, with my kids, I don't know, maybe like a month ago, where I sat down and I wanted them to not feel pressure, like I was judging them or loving them any less. And I just sat down and I said, look, no matter what you do, I want you to know that you can come talk to me and that you can tell me, and I won't judge you. And I won't be mad, and I'm not going to freak out. Now, I may not be happy with some of the choices that you have made because I'm worried about what it's going to do in the future. But a lot of times it's like, look, are our thoughts and are our actions with loved ones, with family members, are they coming from a place of fear, or are they coming from a place of love? And ultimately, we need to step back and go, look, it should be coming from a place of love, because that's when we're not judging that person, we're not placing expectations, that's when there's open communication, and that's when we're able to help each other.
So let me speak to that. Communication with others, whether they feel judged or feel loved. The difference is in this key piece right here. Others feel the place we stand in towards ourselves. If there's any amount of judgment, and let's just be honest, we all have some degree of judgment. So they're going to feel some. That's okay. The goal's not to be perfect.
People may go, why did Mark and Sam wear matching shirts today? What's wrong with them?
That's fine. But so they will feel the place you stand in with yourself. So if you don't want to come across as you're just judging them and condemning them, before you go talk to them, sit with yourself in silence. Get really still. Get really present. Tell yourself, I love you. I love you. I love you. And get really centered and loving and accepting yourself. Cultivate that space and really anchor yourself in that space. Then go have the conversation. And no matter, I've had this through inspiration.
It sounds very easy, but it's not a hard thing to do.
But it's can you improve?
And I still struggle with it. I'm still dealing with it.
But can you improve 1% daily? I've heard either 1 or 3%. I think it's like 1%. They say the super successful. Someone wrote a book on it. Can you improve 1% daily? No one says, dude, that's impossible. I can't improve 1% daily. I recently heard from one of my teachers.
Well, sometimes you go backwards. But and you have to just go, look, it's a new day. Let it go. Maybe I fell backwards a few steps today,
Yeah.
But I'm going to work harder
You know-
tomorrow or try to do it again tomorrow.
I want to speak to that because years ago, I mean, we're talking probably 20
Yeah.
years ago, I had one of those moments where, you know, you get those little ahas or downloads or whatever, and you're like, I know that wasn't for me, right? And
I know where you're going with
Here
this.
was the thought. Here was the thought. Everything. Or, sorry, I'll phrase it.
You're going to say everything's a learning experience
No,
or
no,
getting better no matter what happens.
Well, yes, but my whole life is a straight line to God. That's super radical, guys. Like, your mind is probably going ballistic if you're even trying to accept that. It just dropped in, and I was like, And I remember forgetting about it for many years, but then every once in a while, it pops back up, and it popped back up into my mind recently the other day. And I've learned a lot. I mean, that was before I even felt like I started my awakening experience. I needed some serious pain in my life to get my attention, to turn to God.
Sometimes it takes stuff like that to happen.
Yes,
for
and
us
that's
to
not
get a
wrong
clue.
that it took that. Pain is our friend. If I can't choose my path and really choose into it and choose God, choose to live by inspiration, great, pain will show up to help you. And I know that sounds like ridiculous, and it sounds more conscious to choose the path that doesn't include pain. There's no path like that. That's more self-judgment versus self-love. My path is the way it is. It shows up to me one step at a time, and I don't know the way it's going to go.
One quote that popped in my head, which is one of my favorite. A lot of people, if you are not LDS and you're listening, everyone knows who Brigham Young is. But this is one of my favorite quotes. It's like, every trial and every difficulty that we endure is necessary for our salvation. Which, to me, that tells me that we should never be judging people, because yes, we all are trying to get to this. You know, if you believe in an afterlife and you believe that there's some type of nirvana or heaven or hell or final kingdom that you're supposed to achieve or get to, no matter what that is, that tells me that you have certain things that you have to go through and experience. So like what Sam's talking about is the pain. You know, there's these moments of pain and hardship and things that we go through that get us to this destination. And it's different for every person. So for me to compare my life to Sam's or anyone, or compare my life to Kim Kardashian or whoever that may be, that's ridiculous, because everyone is here for a different reason or a different purpose. And we all have different things that we're struggling and going through, but we all have some, or I believe, that we all are trying to get to this final destination.
Right.
And how we get there isn't important.
Yeah. So I want to share a real personal experience that I feel to share. Just, this is the inspiration coming through me.
Okay, we got to wrap it up, so make it fast.
Yep. So when I was 2 years old, so just a little bit of context. I seriously have no memory below like 8 years old. So this was all like through meditation, inspiration. Had to go ask my mom. Yada
I
yada.
can
yada.
remember stuff back to 2, when I was 2.
Yeah, I know. So, and people are like, oh, you're emotionally blocked, whatever. No, it really is, it's not for me to access. But at 2 years old, I'm just going to give this general synopsis. At 2 years old, because I'm speaking to those who judge themselves for choosing out of the divine journey. Because as we wake up and we realize things, we're going to wake up to how much we've chosen to shut down and all that. I'm speaking to you to remove that shame, remove that judgment. At 2 years old, I had an experience. Again, I had to kind of live it intuitively. I had to go there in energy, and I had to ask my mom the details of what actually happened. But I experienced a situation that was so traumatic that little 2-year-old chose to break off from himself and chose out of his path for his whole purpose of why he came to earth. This was seriously traumatizing to him. Now, and I share this because we all daily kind of choose out of our paths. But I had an aha about 2 years ago. I was driving in my car. I revisit this little child, this little 2-year-old, multiple times. I've done it consecutively through the years. And this one time I had an aha that just, I started bawling tears of gratitude. And this is what came to me. I realized an inner knowing that if he didn't choose out, that if he didn't choose to fracture off from himself, I may not be here today on this earth. And I'm so grateful that he chose to cope the best way he knew how to keep us here. So that I'm here now and I can do the work. I can go back and I can be with him and I can heal that trauma as well as heal many others because I'm still here in this body.
What was the trauma?
I'm just going to leave it vague.
I was thinking with a lot of
life-threatening
people.
circumstances. But it was seriously traumatic. And here's the energy picture I got. As I went back and sat with him, the energy was so strong, I saw him like thrown up against the wall and pinned up against the wall. That's how strong the energy. He could not comprehend or believe what was happening. It was so contrary to the love that he was. And at 2 years old, he chose not to be the love anymore because he says, if choosing to be the love means I just die, screw that. And maybe your life's not literally on the line necessarily, but there are times when life doesn't seem worth it. When living your path doesn't seem worth it. Don't judge yourself for choosing out. What if choosing out was your perfect next step? Was your perfect experience that's evolving you on your straight line to awakening to the God within you? What if? I've awoken that that's true for me. I hope I've brought you a little bit further along on the journey to help awaken to the perfection that you are. And to let go of what you think you know about you and accept the truth of God. That you're a divine expression of him. And to kind of tie this back into nutrition, the elements that show up in our body, like Lisa Rankin said, the body's a mirror. The body's showing what's not in love within our body, in our cellular energy. And while inspiration may say to change our diet, there's no diet that will cover up not listening, not feeling.
The past or
The
what's
past.
happened.
Yes. Let's be with what's trying to constantly get our attention so it can finally be resolved, come into heaven, come into love, the trauma pass out of us, and we will feel more whole, more awakened, and more in love with each time we do this. And it just starts with a simple, I love you. And to you listening right now and watching, I love you. There's nothing wrong with you. I accept you as you are. Let that penetrate. Just breathe that in. This is the foundation of all health. What Mark was saying, cognitive dissonance. There's a dissonance of what we think we know and how our path is actually living out.
And a lot of times we wear these masks.
Yeah.
You know, we put on like the dad mask, the mom mask, the be at work mask, the employee mask. You know, we're out with friends, we put on the party mask. So we're being all these different things and different people. Well, what you need to identify is be yourself all the time. Be true. Get rid of the mask and be who you are intended to be. And don't feel that we have to put on this mask or this front to be accepted and to be loved for who we are. That's really what it comes down to. And yes, diet and health, supplementation, all that is important.
As we feel
As we-
directed,
yeah.
as we feel inspired to do.
So, you know, take care of our mental well-being and then we can address the physical well-being, you know, with the diet, the exercise, the supplementation, and then I think that wraps it up. We should leave people with that.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everyone for listening and tuning in today. And most important, I want everyone out there listening and watching this to know that you are loved and that you are good enough and that
Just
we
as
believe
you
in
are
you.
right now.
Exactly. And you can do it. You got this.
You got it.
So,
Because you're had by God.
exactly.
That's why God's got this.
Exactly.
So you got this.
And then as far as a discount for High Energy Labs nutritional supplements, I want to give you guys a promotion code, all in capital letters. I'll go in and add this later, so it won't be available right now. But as you're watching this, after the fact, type in LOVE, and that'll give you 20% off of all High Energy Lab products for this next month. Thanks for tuning in. You guys are awesome. Have a great rest of your week.
Take care. Bye-bye.